Now, this next one, I just saw this next clip that we're going to show you because we need to get into some of this analysis, right? Before we get to the cool forensic sound analysis and the mathematics and the algebra, we're going to start with just like some old-fashioned public records searching. Because I have a question. I have a question like, how many pieces of brass were collected so I can know how many shots came from that location. The simple stuff, right, that you would have forensics for. But public records search would lead you to the question of who owns the building from which the shooting took place, right? This AGR company, who owns the building? Who owns AGR? What is AGR? And if you were to find your way back to a level of deep statedness that ties into the Council on Foreign Relations, the Brookings Institution, a whole bunch of other deep state entities, and then you also saw a cross-pollination between them and BlackRock, and then you notice that the alleged shooter is in a BlackRock commercial, then you got to do a little record scratch and be like, play it back. I play it back slower. I need to hear that again, right? This is one of those cases. So this is forensic analysis of public records, if you will. I've never seen this YouTuber before yesterday. She's wearing kitten ears. I don't have any aversion to it. It's just her
I've come
style.
across her work before. I've come across her work before. She
Cool.
covers
she's got a brand, and maybe she identifies as kitty, but that's okay. What she does here is instrumental and good illustration for people to be able to do likewise with public records, with SEC database records, to actually be able to put the conspiracy theory aside and be like, no, here is step by step how I reach this conclusion. And now you can communicate that knowledge to other people. Once I learned this yesterday, I thought there was enough overlap that is too coincidental for the people we're talking about. Look, we already covered the insider trades and stuff like that. That's BlackRock level type of stuff that's going on, right? Those are people high up in the financial industry, 34 million shorts on Rumble, etc. So let's just take a few minutes. Don't be judgmental. Let's not examine the messenger. Let's examine the message that she's bringing to the table and not be distracted by all the kitty stuff. All right. Enough being said, let's go to that surprise witness and her analysis. Who owns the building from the Trump rally? And then we're going to go to the quartering, because Jeremy had a good story on Secret Service had confronted the United States Secret Service Director, Kimberly Cheadle, at the RNC, and she ran. And then we're going to get to the report on how she ran from the congressman too at the actual hearings. So we'll round out this media block with Paul Joseph Watson. He had several good reports this past week. This was his earliest in the week, I believe, on this situation, saying weird things about the Trump shooting, I think was his first report. So let's take it with a grain of salt, and we'll weigh the evidence when we get back.
Hello, everybody. Does BlackRock own the building that Thomas Crooks was perched up on top of when apparently it was too steep for the Secret Service to put their lives in peril and stand on top of that building? It seems like a weird question, but one of y'all kind of brought that up to me, and it wasn't in a question form. You said BlackRock owns the buildings, and put it right here. They also own those buildings that Crooks was on when he tried to bleep the Donald. How convenient. Now, I think that comment was left on my other video about BlackRock relating to this, where Thomas Crooks, he was in a BlackRock commercial. Well, I basically haven't been able to sleep. I haven't been able to think about other thing other than this one video that I had to make because Mark Laita from Soft White Underbelly doesn't know how to act. Hello, everybody. I am worried about Mark Laita. Does he need a conservatorship? Does he need jail? Because the way I see it, something has to be wrong with his frontal lobe, bless his heart. In the midst of everything else that I have going on, like I'm literally trying to investigate and report upon an attempted you-know-what against a former United States president. And I got to stop everything I'm doing. I have to interrupt. But anyway, I investigated and I think I have a pretty clear answer. Let me show you what I found. Okay, so there's really two questions that we want to keep in mind. These are the questions of the video because there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of other rabbit holes and side trails that I'm going to try very hard not to go off into, and they're going to have to get their own separate video. So the two questions I'm trying to put the blinders on and focus on in this video. Does BlackRock own the building that Thomas Crooks was on top of, and also or does BlackRock own the business that is affiliated or associated in some way with that building? So maybe they don't own the building, but what about the business? Okay, that's the questions we're trying to answer, and I do think I have a pretty good idea. Okay, what I'm going to basically do is kind of like recreate the investigation that I did to show y'all all the public records that I'm basing this off of. Okay, that's what I do over here. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe because this is what I do. I go into the public record, as most of y'all do know, and I do try and find the stuff. So first thing we're going to do, let's go to the Butler County GIS parcel mapping website. So I did go to Google to get their physical address, the public business address, but for the purposes of this video, it is Town Road, and then you just search it here. This is the parcel right here. As you can see over here, here would be the 3 barns. The Trump stage would be here, the Butler Farm Show. So this building right here is the one we're talking about. Okay, that's the one he was on top of. And then, that way we had the SS up here on this roof. Okay, so if you simply click on this, a public website, I didn't pay any money, y'all just saw me go to it, you will see it lists an owner. It's listed as American Glass Research. Okay, cool. So American Glass Research, obviously it doesn't say BlackRock. So no, BlackRock isn't listed as the owner. But the investigation doesn't end there because as we know, businesses can be owned by other businesses and then those can be owned by other ones and then those can be owned by, you know what I mean? It could be an endless chain. When I'm looking for the ownership of a property or a business, a corporation, something like that, I want to know the person, a name, a person with a picture preferably. So we keep going. Next destination I went to was the Pennsylvania Secretary of State to see who owns this company, American Glass Research. So let me pull that up. Okay, so we are on another public website. This is the Pennsylvania Department of State Business Search for the public. And I'm just going to type in, I'm going to plug in the name right here. Look, I'll even copy and paste it. American Glass Research. No results found. Okay, well, looks like it's back to the drawing board. So since nothing came up, that doesn't really seem right to me, right? Like, obviously this company has to exist because it's listed on an official state website as owning the property, which has the building on it that Crooks was on. So what that tells me is it's possible that this business has changed its name. So we're going to go to the next destination, which is the website itself. That's going to be the AmericanGlassResearch.com. And before I even pull this up, y'all, I have a whole video coming out on the strange origin of this AGR business, how it was started all the way back in the 20s. It appeared in some declassified documents in 1999. The predecessors to this company also worked very closely, seemingly directly, with departments of the government, including the Department of Defense, to manufacture things during World War II. And I also want to make a whole video about how this company is directly related to the Manhattan Project. That's like the first NUCLE. Boom. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So all that's going to be coming in the future. But for the purposes of our question today, is the building owned by BlackRock? Why do people want to know that? Because I saw it in a comment and I wanted to fact check it. So that's what we're doing right now. Okay, so I'm on the history page of the website. Let me pull it up. And we're just going to skip. Like I said, we're going to go through all this one day, but let's look at this 1988 paragraph right here. Among other things in here, it says, the company's name was changed to AGR International. Okay, so it was called American Glass Research, and it says the company's name was changed to AGR International. Cool. Let's go back to the Secretary of State's website. Why? Because I want to know who owns this company. Why? Because they own the building that Thomas Crooks was on top of, and I want to know if it's BlackRock. Let's go. Okay, so we're back over here on this website, and I'm going to type in AGR International. Yes, it does come up. You can see their history here. And as you can see, the initial filing that the Secretary of State has is 1957. Now, just so that you are aware, I was able to trace back this company existing at least officially as early as 1933, but not with this resource. It was in some different public records we'll get into later. But as you will note on this Pennsylvania Secretary of State, I'm just expanding each thing here, there's no option to look at the documents. Okay, so we can see some activity has happened. So let's go to the latest filing. That's March 18th, 2024. So about 4 months ago. And what is this change? Well, it is a change of the registered office by the entity from their known address to a process server, it looks like. But again, see, there's no documents to click on. We can't really see anything more than just this. And then I guess some type of official name change happened here. It's hard to tell. Honestly, y'all, it is difficult to tell what went on without being able to see the documents. For that reason, it did require me to look further. So yeah, it exists. This is the company that owns the building, but we're no steps closer to BlackRock. So then I had to go to my next resource. At this point, I went into the assessor's maps and the actual property records, the deeds, the easements, the rights of way. And I also found and looked through all the mortgages on the property, the improvements, the construction, the permits, and the publicly filed financing statements. That was to follow the money, to see who was lending money to this company. Was it which bank, what bank, same patterns and all that. But for the purposes of this video, again, all of that is just kind of tangential, but it'll come later. Make sure you subscribe and have the notifications on. So then I went to check out the company's other website. Yes, they do have 2 websites. I think I know why, and I can explain that later. But for the purposes of right now, this is their other website. So as you can see here, AGR International did put out a press release about, again, 4 months ago, about the same time as that process server change we just saw happen. And this is a huge announcement. A huge announcement. Remember I told y'all the predecessor, the first ancestor of this company was established in the 20s. And I found actual receipts indicating that for sure it was established by 1933. So it's a very old company and they have a lot of assets. They have a lot of machinery. I can get into like what type of company and stuff that they do whenever I do the history of the company video. But the important part to me right now is that it's very old. It's very long established. This isn't just a brand new tech company somebody just started up. Okay, this is very old company. They've been doing the same stuff for a long time, and they've kind of innovated a lot of stuff early on and things like that, as well as had government contracts. But again, not for today. Okay, so what does this say? It says AGR International becomes part of Indicor, Industrial Solutions Company. Okay, so what this is doing is it is announcing that AGR, the company that owns the building, has been sold. It has been sold off. Somebody has bought it. Who bought it? A company named Indicor. Now, at this point, I'm probably going to overlay something here because I need to start making a chart because it's going to be confusing if y'all don't have the chart. So we have the building, right? It's like one of the, y'all remember that song, in a tree, in the hole, in the ground, in the ground. That's how these businesses are, okay? So they're kind of like packed in envelopes. I think of it as a hierarchy, but look, here's the building. Building is owned by AGR International. AGR International just got bought 3 months ago by Indicor. Okay, so we have a little ladder. Y'all see it? I'm gonna put it up here. So then the obvious next question is, who owns Indicor? Let me show you. Yeah, I did find a lot of stuff about Indicor, but like, do y'all really care about that? Leave it in the comments below if you want to know what I found about it, but I wasn't planning on covering that. Unfortunately, this is not dated, or if it is, I don't see where the date is. But as you can see, this is from a firm called Harris Williams, and it says AGR International acquired by Indicor. And then they give this little chart here, which is going to make more sense after I read their little statement. Harris Williams, their firm, doesn't matter. You don't have to remember this name. Just these people we're talking about right here who wrote this little article, advised AGR International on their sale to Indicor LLC, a portfolio company of Clayton, Dubilier, and Rice, and then also Roper Technologies.
Over the years, we've held our annual meetings at a variety of venues. This year, we're at a basketball facility. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed.
Okay, so AGR was bought by Indicor. See this here? I mean, in my mind, it's upside down, but just, you see this little chart. AGR, this is the building that Thomas Crooks was on top of, purchased by this company, literally 4 months ago. And this company is not just standing alone owning itself. No. That's just one little envelope of a bunch of envelopes that these companies have. Now, who are these companies? Again, not as important on the Roper Technologies thing, but Roper Technologies owns about half of Indicor. From what I was able to gather, I'm no expert on this, okay? I'm just relying on what I'm seeing here. But Clayton Dubilier owns the majority of the shares in Indicor, which now owns AGR, which owns the building that Thomas Crooks was on top of. But again, Clayton Dubilier and Rice is not BlackRock. So then one more time, I must repeat. Who owns Clayton, Dubilier, and Rice? Okay, like I said, the name of the company, Clayton, Dubilier, and Rice. Okay, so when you go to that firm's website and you click on the founder tab right here, here, you get this guy, Joseph L. Rice III.
He poisoned our water supply, burned our crops, and delivered a plague unto our houses.
Okay, why do we care about Joseph L. Rice III? We got to sing our tree in the hole in the ground song. Because he's the founder of a company that owns Indicor, and Indicor owns AGR. And AGR owns the building that Thomas Crooks was sitting up on top of, where it had too steep of a roof for the Secret Service to possibly endanger their lives and walk on it. Remember? Okay. So this guy, this is how far up we've been able to find it so far. Now, importantly, just because he's the founder doesn't mean he's the only owner. I have reason to believe the way that these funds are set up is everybody's kind of a little bit of an owner, like a lot of people are. So I'm not saying he's the only one owns it, but this firm does, and this guy's the founder, right? And then I just kind of like looked into this guy just a little bit. He is, as you can see, according to this website right here, he is trustee of Williams College and a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Brookings Institution. Now, before I made this video, honestly, I never had really put much thought into what is the Council of Foreign Relations and what is the Brookings Institution. It also says he is a co-founder of the Private Capital Research Institute. Again, I don't know, like Council on Foreign Relations sounds kind of familiar, but I don't really know. So then I looked him up just a little bit more, and it does show that the man did donate $50,000 in 2020 to this Council on Foreign Relations. You know, you can see here this chairman circle thing. But then I did find something interesting.
I just found something interesting because I had a question here. Is this guy Rice from a family that created Rice University in Texas? Because I know James Baker III is all up in Rice University. So I was trying to disambiguate that. So I went to the browser and I did a nasty little thing. I typed in Joseph Rice III wiki and I pulled up this Wikipedia page here. Now this is interesting. I'll get to it in a second. You'll get the point. But Joseph L. Rice III, born 1932, is an American businessman. He's co-founder of Clayton, Dubilier, and Rice, one of the oldest private equity firms in the world. Okay? He went to Harvard Law School. Let's go down to his career, shall we? Career. He joined the law firm of Sullivan and Cromwell in 1960. Does anyone here know what Sullivan and Cromwell means to the intelligence world and the espionage world?
Sounds familiar. I've heard that name. I'm on it. Let me see.
The book reference is called The Old Boys, Origins of the CIA by Burton Hirsch. And basically what he shows you is like MI6, this is a different book. MI6 is made from City of London bankers. So the bankers create the intelligence system over the British Empire. In America, our intelligence systems, OSS and CIA specifically, even though MI6 had instrumental blueprint access, they draw their wealth from the Wall Street law firm of Sullivan and Cromwell. Sullivan and Cromwell was there to fix the Paris 1919 treaty. It's where the Dulles brothers worked. It's where Frank Wisner and a whole bunch of other early OSS, CIA, Anglo-American establishment, X2 double-cross people worked. So the fact that this guy happens to not just be CFR, but to be Sullivan and Cromwell alumni sends off red sirens all around my brain. Let's continue to learn, because these types of people owning the place where there might be a MK Ultra assassination type thing going on is totally within the realm of possibility. So he joined Sullivan and Cromwell. He was there. He went to another place. He got together with these guys, made this firm. So 1978. So it's like 50 years old. 46 years old. One of the largest places in the world of this variety. What was the quote? One of the oldest private equity investment firms in the world. Well, it's 1978. I don't understand that. Maybe I'll have to learn more. In 2012, he's the chairman. Let's see. He's a former trustee, Williams College, member of the CFR Brookings Institution. He co-founded Private Capital Research Institute. Now, I'd like to know, is there any relation between that and Austin Private Wealth that did the short selling on those Trump stocks and the Rumble stocks? I don't know. I'm going to have to learn about that. So this is interesting, and it doesn't say about his family. He's the third. Who's Rice the second? What did he do? Does anyone have eyes on that? Let's go real quick. Let's go to SourceWatch. doesn't tell me really anything else. It's even less than Wikipedia in this case. All right. Without further ado, let's go back to that surprise witness, because she's in the middle of doing a serious analysis. I just wanted to ask the question, who is Joseph L. Rice and what else did I need to know about him? Sullivan and Cromwell is a pretty big major point that I have not heard broken anyplace else. So we're going to take that as a point of knowledge to consider now that she's going to unfold the BlackRock connection.
You know, to say the least. It's Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. He is at least he used to be, I don't know, maybe he still is right now. I need to see when the timeline was, but at least at some point he was a director of the Council on Foreign Relations. So if this guy that owns Clayton and Rice, whatever, the founder, you know, Jerry Rice, whatever his name is, if this Rice guy founded the company that owns the company that owns the company that the shooter was on top of, if he's on the Council of Foreign Relations as a member and he's donating like $50,000 and stuff, it would make sense to me that Larry Fink, director of the Council on Foreign Relations, who's also just happens to be the CEO of BlackRock, they probably at least know each other. Now, does that mean that they have some type of business relationship? Well, not necessarily. So I had to look even further. And this brings us to the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, aka the SEC. Oh, something else I also saw was that they went also in the same fraternity, it looks like. It looks like they were Larry Fink, the BlackRock CEO, and Joseph Rice, that firm that owns, they both were also in the same fraternity, but they're not the same age. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I think the Joseph Rice guy is like 20 years older than Larry Fink guy. But they do have this Foreign Relations Council connection, and they also happen to have been to the same, fraternity. But again, I'm not sure that really is dispositive of anything. Okay, so now we're on the Edgar search, public search feature on the Securities Exchange Commission, SEC website, and I'm going to type in Indicor. The parameters are automatically set up here for the last 5 years, which is fine. And as you can see, it's a lot of search results, but I'm just going to fast forward. I scrolled through these very, slowly and meticulously, but I'm going to fast forward to the important part here. I'm just minding my business, and what do I see? Y'all see that right there? BlackRock funds, 5. Okay, interesting. Again, just to remind y'all, what I typed in is Indicor. Why do I type in Indicor? Because I'm trying to find out, either prove or disprove, if I can, that this building is owned by BlackRock. So now I'm seeing BlackRock Funds 5 showing up April 30th, 2024 on the Securities Exchange Commission when I type in the term Indicor. Okay, let's see what this is. All right, this is very long. As you can see, the little bar on the side is very long. So first thing we want to do, let's just see what this document is. I don't know what an import is. Okay, what's the title up here say? Form Import P, Monthly Portfolio Investments Report. And who's the filer? BlackRock Funds number 5? I don't know. V. I don't know. BlackRock Funds V. Okay, this is a public record. Y'all saw how I got to it just now. All right. So now let's search for the term Indicor and see why Indicor is showing up in the BlackRock Monthly Portfolio Investments Report from 3 months ago, from last quarter. Okay, so it does bring us down here. You can see on the sidebar about how much we've gone. And what does it say? Import P, Part C, Schedule of Portfolio Investments. Okay, Schedule of Portfolio Investments. That's the section we're looking at on BlackRock's publicly filed monthly portfolio report. For each investment held by the fund, that's BlackRock Fund 5, and its consolidated subsidiaries, disclose the information requested below. Then it just gives some parameters of what you have to report, what you don't, and all that. Item C1. Identification of investment. Okay, so this is BlackRock telling the government, as required, one of their investments, they're identifying one of their investments. But it says clear as day, Indicor LLC. First lien term loan. The principal amount is $16.9 million. So this is like almost $17 million loan that, I guess, look, I'm not an expert. I'm just a girl on the internet. I'm just pulling stuff up. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, if you know what this means and you know how to read it, make a video so I can reference it, because I don't. I'm just doing my best. But it looks like BlackRock Fund 5 is including, as a required disclosure to the United States federal government, a disclosure of some type of loan in the amount of almost $17 million. And it has to do with this company, un-distort. Un-distort owns the company AGR, and AGR owns that building that the shooter was on top of. So it's a loan. It matures 2029, November 22nd, 2029. It's a variable loan. And it has currently a 9.3% annualized rate. So, I mean, I think that's like $1.5 million a year in interest, if that's the rate. I don't know. Again, I mean, I'm no expert, but interesting to say the least. Now, I did look into that, like I said, un-distort company, and it appears that they are a pretty big company. It looks like they might be worth quite a lot. And then I also looked into the assets under management of that other firm, the one with the CDR, the Rice, you know, the one that owns the company that owns the company that owns the building. Well, they manage like $81 billion or something. I mean, I'll put it up here. I'll put it up here what it is. But I mean, we're talking about big money, big money. Now, the whole entire purpose of this whole video was just to try and answer the question, does BlackRock own that building? And while it doesn't look like BlackRock is listed as the owner of the property on the deed, it does appear that the property is owned and controlled by a corporation or a partnership or whatever, a business, an entity, which not only has some ties to BlackRock, but also which BlackRock Funds 5 does list as an investment and did give a loan to. It looks like to me. Again, I'm just bringing this forward. I'm just girl on the internet. So that's what I was able to find. That's the public record. And you can point to this video not as a definitive proof of anything, but if people are struggling with finding proof of some of these aspects of things, like instead of just saying, you know, BlackRock owns the building, now there's kind of a little bit more of a paper trail, and hopefully I'll be able to point people to this. I will be making many more videos about this. I've been researching this for 3 days. So we'll get to more on that later. But that's all I have for today. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it. Okay, bye.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. Today is the day going to see Donald Trump. Maybe I'll get to ask him a question. I don't know, but I've got to do all my work for you all and standalone videos. First, I was at the RNC all day yesterday. It will be today as well. So if you're out here at the RNC and you want to say hi, definitely feel free to do so. I was doing a kind of a tour of the area where I'll be able to film tomorrow or later today, actually, for the Trump speech tonight. And there was a lot of hubbub going on, as I don't know how you must have a serious pair, a big brass pair. The director of the Secret Service showed up at the RNC, which I mean, I guess after many people believe was the biggest security lapse in history. Some people believe purposely, and I don't blame them for thinking that, because, well, I think the best thing to do if I were the Secret Service would be to release the comms, release the information, release everything to the public immediately, and stop acting like you're trying to CYA, because that's what they're trying to do. In fact, yesterday, basically they did nothing. They've been stonewalling on the interviews and things like that. So Secret Service director confronted at the RNC. A group of Republican senators confronted the director of the Secret Service on Wednesday over what happened with Donald Trump. In a video shared by Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn, Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, who absolutely 100% should step down, is seen being grilled by Blackburn Utah Senator John Barrasso, North Dakota Senator Kevin Cramer, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford, and others during the day three of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. After a few minutes of Barrasso and Blackburn asking questions, Cheadle tells the group that she does not think that this is the forum to have the discussion. While Cheadle starts to remove herself from the crowd, Barrasso states, "We're coming with you then." Let's look at the confrontation here. Shout out Marsha Blackburn. Great job, by the way. They've got this woman cornered in. Very disappointing.
Trying to answer questions, and until we run out of questions that every one of us have questions that we wanted to ask. necessary.
If you can't hear exactly what he's saying, as many of us have asked you questions, you won't answer them. I actually talked with Lauren Boebert on, what was it, Tuesday, on Timcast about some pending, because she's on the oversight committee, some pending legislation around defunding the Secret Service because they are stonewalling and refusing to answer questions, very simple questions like who is supposed to be on that roof, things of that nature.
Very disappointing in your leadership. I have called for your resignation, and I'd rather you resign tonight or start answering our questions right now about the death threat to President Trump and allowing him to go on stage in Pennsylvania at a time when he'd already been alerted that there was somebody with a spotter, all these situations already identified an hour before, and you let him go on stage without the knowledge of him, the team on the ground, and you will put him within less than an inch of his life. So resignation or full explanation to us right now.
Resignation or full explanation to us right now is what he says. I 100% agree with that ultimatum. This is a woman who answers to these people, you know, who probably has a gigantic salary in the many millions of dollars, I would assume, directly or indirectly. And she owes a response. I mean, I think that's extremely reasonable to ask. They are now supposed to be talking to a hearing. I've got a different video today where now they've done like the literal Spider-Man meme where local PD is saying, no, dog, Secret Service is supposed to have that. Secret Service is saying, no, local guys were supposed to have that. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because if the local guys failed, it's still the responsibility of Secret Service. There were also some huge bombshell revelations yesterday about the fact that, you know, we already knew as each day comes out, oh, they knew 10 minutes or 2 minutes before, 60 seconds before. Then it was 10 minutes before, then 30 minutes before, then 3 hours, an hour before, then 3 hours before. And all of these red flags happened, and they still let Donald J. Trump get on that stage, which is bananas. I asked Lauren Boebert directly, isn't there like some sort of, you know, hey, that's it. You know, there's somebody here with a rangefinder. I talked about it yesterday. Somebody with a rangefinder actually locked eyes with counter moron teams.
48 hours later, and if anything, this whole event just gets weirder by the minute. Why are literal minutes allowed to pass while all the eyewitnesses warn the authorities that the gunman's right there getting in position with seemingly nothing being done about it?
Right there, see him? He's laying down, see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
Yeah, look, there he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Milk Bar TV put together this shocking sequence of events, highlighting the almost inconceivably slow response.
He was doing his job. I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd get some beautiful place with the gorgeous ocean.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down, see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And still I'm here with you fighting like hell to get us sentenced.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look,
and it's
there he
not
is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people, criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. It's much tougher than it happened. We have the strongest border ever. In recorded history, we had the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much? You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters are so damn boring, I try and explain that. Oh, there's it. Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that says,
Again, the snipers are literally trained on the guy, watching him before he takes his first shot. So why are they waiting for him to shoot? When all previous protocol and training dictates that you take him out before he's able to fire. Why does that civilian on a rooftop have a gun? I don't know, let's give him 3 minutes and see what he does.
when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
More and more prominent people are having a really hard time believing this was just incompetence. Former CIA analyst Larry Johnson.
The Secret Service agent who was in charge of setting up security for that venue failed to do their job, or they were complicit in allowing this assassination attempt to occur. There's no other choice. And let me explain. When you go out and do the pre-site survey as a Secret Service agent, you go around, you put somebody at the podium where Donald Trump is going to stand. And then you move around both inside the venue and then outside the venue to find out where are the potential lines of fire. Once you identify those potential lines of fire, you are then supposed to post armed security personnel there with counter snipers. They didn't do that. And in fact, there are reports, credible reports from bystanders that they warned police that they saw this guy climbing up on the roof and no one did anything. So the Secret Service agents that were inside the venue, they did their job. They moved immediately once the shots started to protect Donald Trump. But the overall officer in charge, and I don't know who that is, but they failed in their job. And it's either incompetence or they were complicit in a plot to have Donald Trump killed. There's no other way to look at it.
There are still so many unanswered questions, one of which is, did Trump request additional security from the Secret Service beforehand? Despite the obvious failures in security, which many have attributed to a lack of manpower, the Secret Service has denied that such a request ever occurred. Thanks to Ground News, I can instantly access every story on it and compare coverage. This looks like a bit of a blind spot for the left, with only 10 out of 68 stories on the issue from publications that lean left. Right-leaning sources like the Daily Caller and the Washington Times are asking hard questions about the Secret Service's failures, while left-wing sources like the Daily Beast are concentrating more on regurgitating the Secret Service's official narrative. Ground News helps me track all this and shine a spotlight on misleading narratives. You can check this out for yourself at ground.news/PJW. The link is down below. If you're a news junkie like me, Ground News is the Rosetta Stone of breaking news and media monitoring. Instead of wasting time wading through scores of news from Ground News, the Secret Service knew that very rooftop was a vulnerable location before the event.
That the roof where the shooter was located was a well-known, high-priority vulnerability. It was identified just the day before during a security walkthrough. We've also just learned that there were 2 counter-sniper teams on site and that the counter-sniper did not need approval to shoot. One source telling NBC News that prior protocols were not followed.
So how the hell hell is he allowed to slap a ladder on the side of the building, climb up it, position himself, and then fire on Trump? Now the Secret Service is laying the blame at the feet of local police for not protecting the perimeter. What? The shooter was about 150 yards away, well within the usual Secret Service perimeter, which according to former Secret Service Director Julia Pearson is 1,000 yards.
But here's another thing I'm hearing from sources. That this subject, they had been monitoring him since he came in around that external perimeter area. This subject who was the shooter. They lost track of him, apparently, and he was hiding in a building about 300 yards away. Folks, if they had this subject in their on their, say, their radar, that you had a potential threat, I think the questions right now are fairly obvious. Why was President Trump even on stage at that point? He should have not been on stage. It's ridiculous. I mean, if you know you're in a situation with a potential threat out there, just delay the event for a little bit.
The Associated Press reported that Thomas Matthew Crooks was confronted by a police officer on the roof of the building before he launched his attack. The officer then retreated after Crooks pointed a gun at him, and the gunman went on to position himself to shoot Trump. Former Army sniper and current Congressman Corey Mills asked a very basic question. Why wasn't this instantly communicated to the Secret Service and Trump immediately rushed off stage?
And there should have been comms. The minute that local law enforcement, who apparently had a rifle pointed on, there should have been an emergency frequent comms channel that they could have said, we have a shooter on the roof, shooter on the roof. Secret Service should have rushed the stage and immediately took the president and took him off and then responded with a counter sniper. The shot should not have gone off. That is the failure in itself. You're supposed to be able to try and, the best security is when you go in and you're actually able to prevent an incident, not react to an incident. You could literally just look, quickly glance, and know from the reference point, whether it be a building, whether it be a lone tree, whether it be a parking lot, maybe it's a road.
Yeah, and that Fox graphic shooter location's wrong. Also, because I've watched other clips, and we're not going to get to all the clips that I've researched here. Let me explain that situation, because it comes from the Butler County manager, and basically one officer did like a boot lift to another officer, who then used two hands to pull himself up. When the guy pointed the rifle at him, he shockingly let go. He fell about 8 feet. He got hurt. So this is all in the official reporting in the local news stations and things like that. Then it's only a matter of seconds, from my understanding, before shots started going off. So once Crooks had to turn and point his rifle at the cop, who then disappears and couldn't fight back, he then turns and starts shooting. Now, on the point about the radios, that's a big deal. It happened on 9/11. Communications and radios and things like that with first responders has been an issue for a long time. From the research and the testimony that I've gathered from the news reporting on that event, here's how it looked. State police had their own radio frequency. Beaver County personnel had their own frequency. Secret Service had their own frequency. DHS had their own frequency. They did not have liaisons overlapping those frequencies. So even though the guy falls off and they call it in, it doesn't get through the Secret Service chain to pull the principal or the primary off stage at any time soon. As you will see, as you saw in part of the footage earlier tonight, the time from the shots ringing out to Trump leaving stage is a long time. It took them like we're going to show it tonight. It took 15 seconds from the first shot till the sniper team 2 takes a shot at the guy on the roof. That's a long time. Almost like they left it until there's no chance, and now they have to take out their wind-up toy. It's not going to work out. They let it go for a long time. So anyway, we're going to get to that, and we're about to get to the forensic analysis and the audio and the various distances and all that good stuff. Before we get to that, did you guys have any comments on that recent block of evidence that we're adding to the record here?
I mean, I did see that one kind of overlay with the several different perspectives, with the timestamp at the bottom with the little counter running, and it is shocking just to see like literally like a full minute like go by from where the officers were alerted to where the shots rang out. Like, that's just crazy to see it in real time like that. Like, that just lends all the lends credibility to the whole narrative that this was a complete stand down, a lie hop event. Like, this was just totally like, and then if you just want to pull back and extrapolate further and go further down the little rabbit hole, it's like when you notice that the building and the whole business is owned by, these BlackRock type people, and this guy was in BlackRock commercial, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah, let me show you, because like, you know, while BlackRock is like their fund owns and loans, the guy they tied it back to, that Joseph Rice III character who worked for Sullivan and Cromwell. I mean, you've got Sullivan and Cromwell involved in a lot of Nazi type stuff because they were the front office for all this American International Corporation, Eastern Establishment, deep state activity. So notorious. And there's some really good references. You could read The Devil's Chessboard, Alan Dulles, the CIA, and Rise of America's Secret Government. That's the Deep State by David Talbot. He's a leftist, but it's still a great book. The Dulles Brothers, Harry Dexter White, Alger Hiss, and the private pre-war international banking system. So they worked with a bunch of communists to create a banking system. So the hidden history of the Cold War, The Mighty Wurlitzer, How the CIA Played the World by Hugh Wilford. I also mentioned The Old Boys by Burton Hirsch. And you can also read this book, The CIA, British Left, and Cold War Calling the Tune, America's Great Game. Like, all these books are referring to this same milieu of people who funded the Nazis and the Arab Nazis. It might have been messing around in Iran, who they try to blame everything on. So there's a lot more to it when you start to scratch the surface into these aspects than what would normally meet your ear from, you know, mainstream media. That's, I guess, the point.
Absolutely. Shout out to LD posted in the production chat there that if you guys have covered Sullivan and Cromwell many times on the show, and you can use Clip Genie to go find out previous discussions related to
For
this.
sure. I also wanted to point out BlackRock maybe accidentally owning the place where the shooting happened is no different than BlackRock owning the electric company that might have caused the fires in Lahaina. BlackRock owns this company. That company stopped doing maintenance, created a situation where a fire could happen at any time, and it's accidental, plausible denial, nothing to see there. Same thing. BlackRock, they may or may not own this company, and you know, the family that owns that company, and you know, the investment private equity aspect, they also like have these same connections back to Council on Foreign Relations, because that's what the OSS and CIA were created off of. So there is, you know, some interesting aspects. And why they don't secure their own buildings, the CIA.
Yeah, totally. And you know what's interesting too is, like, you know, having so many different agencies involved in the security detail, you know, obviously there's probably not one centralized coordinated way for them all to communicate at the same time. Maybe it's fractured and compartmentalized, and it's like they're not all on the same channel. They're all kind of like who is this guy? Who is this guy? So I'm wondering if maybe they saw that guy, that Crooks guy on the roof. They're like, he's just like the new DEI hire of like whatever agency. Like, they got this Antifa guy over there with a rifle. He's just the new DEI hire.
I'm going to say this thing.
That makes more sense than anything I've heard.
It does make a lot of sense. I'm going to say this thing, and I'm not applying for the job. I just want to make the observation. Like, I could secure that event with 20 volunteers with walkie-talkies and a couple drones. You can see this guy 20 minutes ahead of the $3 billion budget Secret Service. How much does DHS get? 20 billion? Like, there's a lot of taxpayer stolen money that goes into those entities, and maybe we could be getting more for our money. Maybe Trump should take things private. Maybe there should be private services, and they should compete in the marketplace, and the people that are incompetent and do a bunch of stuff that like might be DEI or DIE, I forget how they spell it, like those things will just weed themselves out of the marketplace. Because when you have a security guard that's supposed to be a big meat shield for the primary, and they are not able to cover him, even if they stand up and not crouch down and hide from the bullets, those things don't add up. It's like, you know, having pants, but they don't go all the way to your ankles. Well, those aren't pants anymore, right? Those are called shorts. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not the same thing. So I don't know. I can make other metaphors, but
yeah, exactly. Like all the Secret Service guys, they were all shorter than Trump. Like, Trump's like 6'3", something like that, I think. They're all like putting their hands up to like cover his face. They're all like taking turns. And then that poor lady that couldn't holster her pistol, she was like the champion of the meme world this last week. It was,
but in her defense, she's not probably Secret Service detail. She's probably one of the DHS replacements, because the Secret Service got called to guard Dr. Jill Biden in Pittsburgh that day.
Yeah, so, I didn't even know about that. That's crazy. Right? I was looking at that, and I was looking that up, and it looks like she was at an event. Oh, I lost it, but it was like an event for military and veterans for Biden Harris. So she was speaking at it like she was trying to coerce military families to support the Biden-Harris
She was
campaign.
really the driving force behind his, reenactment, reanimation campaign, whatever they were trying to do with Bernie there. She was the one keep weaning them out. Like, Bernie's okay. He's fine. He's, and if not, I'll sign off on it. That's, that's what she was rolling. She was like, gravy train's going to end soon. She's going to keep running it all the way to the end of the tracks.
That's almost like the Bush family, like meeting with bin Laden in the morning of 9/11, like Joe Biden being over in Pittsburgh. It's like kind of that same vibe.
Just in case she had to give a speech lamenting the demise of the former president, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the positions that they were all in, the short selling, all these other things, and then they didn't get their winning lottery ticket. It's like they rigged the lottery. They're all there holding their tickets, waiting to cash in, and it's like the numbers didn't come up for whatever reason. But I think we avoided instantaneous civil war because factions would have just started fighting with each other. And those of us who are calm, cool, collected, it's like, I don't want in the middle of those things, right? So we have to go farm or something for a while until they're done.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man.